This is Late Night Health. This is the radio show that cares about the most important part of your life, your health. During the next hour, the insane Daryl Wayne and I are going to take a look at a couple of things that I think touch each and every one of us. During the second part of our show, we're going to talk once again about outrageous healthcare costs and how we can bring those costs down. We'll be doing that in about a half hour from now. Right now, we're going to go to Northern California and we're going to spend some time with our new friend, Rachel Zemach. She's a deaf teacher, writer, passionate activist on behalf of deaf and hard of hearing children and adults. And as many people know, I am hard of hearing. I wear 2 hearing aids. And if I don't have them in, I cannot hear. This is probably partially genetic. It is partially because I have been wearing headphones for more than, say, 3 years in studios. And our guest, as I said, is Rachel Zemach. Rachel, welcome to Late Night Health.
Thank you for having me. Good to meet you.
Our pleasure. You've written a memoir, The Butterfly Cage. Let's talk about your background. You were not born deaf.
Right.
And that's why you speak as well as you do. How old were you when you lost your hearing?
I was 10.
You were 10. You know, I forgot. You had asked me, you wanted to let everybody know who is watching that there will be captions and transcripts available for this interview. And you wanted to do that in sign language. I neglected to let you do that. So be my guest.
Yes, thank you. So for any deaf people who are watching this.
Rachel is signing now. I know it's silent on radio. We'll have some transcripts available for this so that you can hear or read what we're talking about. Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm back.
Good. Again, what happened at 10 years old?
At 10, my family lived in England, and at school, we had a hearing test, a school-wide hearing test, and they found that I was deaf in one ear. And they told me to be very careful about the other ear. And I kind of joked back to the doctor, how can I be careful about an ear? Should I wear a cage over it or what? And she said, no, just if you have a cold, go to the doctor right away. 2 weeks later, I was swinging over a staircase in my house. My sisters and I used to swing over the staircase, and my hand slipped and I fell and broke a bone in my good ear and lost 100% of the hearing. So all of a sudden I was completely deaf because I just had 5% in the other ear. So it was sudden, very complete deafness. And now the hearing has gone down even more. So like you, I wear a hearing aid, and when I take it off, I can't hear anything at all. So we do have that in common.
Does it bother does your family have problems understanding you? Or they'll say to you, Rachel, dinner's ready, and your back is turned to them, or their back is turned to you. Common courtesies that I would think would extend to anybody. But when you know that somebody is hard of hearing or deaf, that you would say, hey, Rachel, din, let's go eat.
Yeah, you know, because of my exposure to the deaf community, I have a very strong sense of what is acceptable to me and what is not. And my family knows this, that my family is hearing, and my husband is hearing, my children are hearing, but they understand that I will not take responsibility for the communication barriers between us 100% on my shoulder. That's not fair to me. And I won't accept it. So I expect them to meet me halfway. And that means if they want to talk to me, ideally, they should be using sign language. You know, I'm deaf. Hearing is very difficult for me. Lip reading is very difficult. As you know, lip reading is full of misunderstanding.
Oh, and I'm very bad at it. I've been told to do it, especially by my wife, but you cannot determine certain sounds with lip reading because the lip motion is the same. 200 years ago, and we said this before on the show, and I mentioned this to you before we started recording, that 200 years ago, maybe 300 years ago, if somebody was deaf, they'd be put in an asylum because they're deaf and dumb. Has that attitude toward people with hearing disabilities really changed all that much in 300 or 400 years?
What has changed is there are politically correct terminology that, for example, the word dumb, it's not politically correct, and deaf people will take offense at the word dumb because, deaf and dumb, wait a minute, we are not dumb. Also, the word mute is not considered polite or accurate. So in a way, we've come along. There's respect for political correctness. There's respect for deaf culture. There's tremendous respect among the public for ASL, a tremendous love of sign language by many, many, many hearing people. So all these things have advanced somewhat. We have laws protecting our rights to education, our rights to equity in the job force. However, hearing people still think of deafness as a disability and a disadvantage and a tragic thing, a sad thing, something that deaf people or hard of hearing people should apologize for. And in that way, we are still constantly fighting battle. And the laws that give us rights to equal access, people don't know about those laws, so we have to fight for them.
I agree 100%. Rachel, we're going to take time out. I think we have about a minute left here in this segment, and we'll do some more in just a few moments. Rachel Zemach is our guest. She's written a memoir, The Butterfly Cage. And when we come back, we're going to ask her to describe the butterfly cage. I'm Mark Alyn, along with the insane Daryl Wayne. Daryl, real quick.
Yes, sir.
Do you know anybody in radio other than you who have eagle ears? He can.
It usually goes away after 20 or 30 years of listening to headphones and loudspeakers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not too many.
Not too many. It does go away. All right. As I said, I'm Mark Alyn, along with the insane Daryl Wayne. And on radio, we actually have a deaf guest. Amazing technology. All right. Don't go away. More coming up as Late Night Health continues. Late Night Health continues. I'm Mark Alyn, along with the insane Daryl Wayne. We're talking about hearing disabled people and deaf people. And our guest is Rachel Zemach. She is a deaf teacher, writer, and passionate activist on behalf of the deaf and hard of hearing children. Her book is called The Butterfly Cage. I know that, there's a saying that if you kill a butterfly, say in China, the repercussions can cause a tsunami in Hawaii. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I'm talking about. What does the butterfly cage mean?
So the butterfly in the title of my book, the idea of the butterfly is that a deaf child, many of them have language deprivation issues, and these issues are unnecessary. In other words, if they were taught sign language, if they were exposed to ASL from babyhood, they would not have language deprivation. But the way our society approaches deaf children, many of them do not get exposed to sign language or to ASL, that type of sign language, which is a real language, until they're older, if at all. So they are like the caterpillars who have not yet developed. When they're exposed to ASL, they immediately start to explode in their mental power and potential and abilities. And so then they become like a butterfly. But 85% of deaf and hard of hearing children in the United States attend mainstream schools. And that's public schools, the same schools that many of your children attend. Deaf children are also put in those schools. And for many of them, they don't have administrators or teachers or specialists who understand their needs. Or
let me interrupt, but isn't mainstreaming what we all want? I mean, for all disabilities, or am I incorrect?
That's the assumption. However, the reality for deaf children is different. The idea is a benevolent one. The idea is well-intentioned. However, it does not work when it comes to children with communication challenges. Somebody in a wheelchair or somebody who is blind, they can still hear and they can still talk. So the essential human need of language is being met. For deaf children, that most essential human need is not being met.
Wow.
So they can't get an education.
Right. Let's flip it to the other side. So you have kids in elementary school. let's flip to an older person and the studies that I have read, that no man is an island and no person is an island, to make that politically correct. As we age and we lose hearing, we also lose mental faculties because we cannot keep up. I know people who, as they get older, first they won't wear hearing aids. They're too technical, it's too hard. I hear myself chewing. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why not to wear these things, as well as the fact that they're too damned expensive. And insurance, you guys in Washington have to fix this. They should be at least made reasonably priced. The ones I'm wearing retail for $6,500. That's outrageous. And yes, I'm paying that off very slowly. My point is that hearing is also connected to mental awareness. And if no person is an island, or every person is an island, you withdraw and you do lose mental faculty. Your thoughts?
I absolutely agree. And I have a solution. And my solution is a fantasy of mine. However, it would work if it was implemented. It would be tremendously powerful, and it would positively impact children, deaf children, hard of hearing children, people who lose their hearing later in life due to noise pollution. Our population is becoming deafer and deafer and deafer as time goes on. And it would positively impact older people too. And the miracle solution that I propose is that ASL, American Sign Language, be taught in public schools to everybody, all children, hearing, deaf, hard of hearing, doesn't matter, everybody, as a mandatory subject from elementary through middle school, through high school. And I have ideas of how it could be done, and it's not hard. And children learn language. The younger they are, the more quickly they learn language. And ASL is something that utilizes a different part of your brain. So even children that struggle with academic subjects will learn ASL with rocket speed. So by the time, imagine this, if by the time everybody graduated high school, they were pretty fluent in ASL, then now jump forward and imagine them in their 70s and they're very hard of hearing. No problem. They can just sign to each other. Or if they're in their 30s and they have a baby and the baby is deaf, or in their 20s and the baby is deaf, instead of them panicking and feeling terrible and grieving long-term, they have a deaf child, what should they do? And then they go to the specialist and get bad advice, which is what happens. They get bad advice. They get directed towards cochlear implants, not even hearing aids, but cochlear implants and speech therapy, and directed away from sign language. This is what happens to the majority of parents. And this is why we have language deprivation in our children and an inability to get an education.
And the cochlear implants, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel, it has a robotic sound to it. I don't believe you can hear music and other forms of audio communication with those. And even with AI, which I'm sure they're going to use if they haven't already, you and I are communicating through an AI right now, in that whatever I'm saying is appearing on the screen in front of you and you're reading it. But it's still not a normal communication. I should learn ASL. But my problem is, Rachel, I can't spell. I can't spell in English or anything else. So anyway, Daryl, we only have a couple minutes left.
None.
I'm sorry.
0 minutes left.
Uh,
You ran out of time, 10 minutes.
oh, okay.
30
Got
seconds ago. Yeah.
Got it. All right. Thank you. Rachel, we're out of time. Will you come back? Can we stay in touch, please?
Absolutely, I would love that.
All right, good. Our guest, Rachel Zemach, and the book she's just released is called The Butterfly Cage. Thank you very much, Rachel. Hang on. I'm Mark Allen, along with the insane Daryl Wayne. We'll be back.